And welcome back, everybody, to WTL Where's the Line? Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. We're joined by Jake Bartecki here, Jabron, the parlay
Yeah.
pounder. Jake, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you guys having me. I got to get that right when I have you on my show, Andy, that it's where's the line, not what's the line. I'd say about 50% of the time I screw it up.
That's all right. One thing you don't screw up is your NASCAR, and we got the Great American Race coming up. So that's why we had to have you on, Jake. Glad you could be here. Let's just start it right there. Jabron, do you have your eye on any favorites? Because you were all over the Clash a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago out in the Coliseum.
Yeah, no, I was all over that. That's just a fun one. It's kind of just a starter race to get everybody back into it. If you look at just the top five there, a couple guys that I really like. Obviously, Kyle Larson, I like a lot for this
Yeah.
race.
Yeah.
Obviously he's top of the list there. And then I really like Kyle Busch as well. So those are my two guys that I'm looking forward to, but I'm also trying to get some nuggets out of Jake here to see what he wants me to do.
Yeah, Kyle
Well,
Larson, he's at the top at 10-1. Chase Elliott's also 10-1 early line. Denny Hamlin 11-1. So they're really stacked up there at the top. Jake, how are you leaning?
Jabron, it's interesting that what you'd say about Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson, because if you would ask Kyle Larson what he thinks about Daytona, and don't get me wrong, Kyle Larson is probably the best overall race car driver in all of racing. I mean, if it's dirt, if it's NASCAR, the one place that he has really, really, really struggled are on restrictor plate tracks. His average finish at Daytona and Talladega, and he would agree, are poor. If you asked him what he thought about Daytona, he would hate it. Kyle Busch is similar the same way. Now, the thing with Kyle Busch, while he was at JGR, there's less teammates there because a lot of these guys, when they work the draft, they go with their manufacturers, and you've got probably about a dozen or so Chevrolets out there. You've got 24 Fords, but you only have 5 or 6 Toyotas out there, and 4 of them are your own teammates. So you had less allies. But the last few years, some to his doing, some to not to his doing, he's gotten caught up in wrecks at Daytona. Now, he's going over to Richard Childress Racing, where that's where Dale Earnhardt raced. We know how good he was at restrictor plate tracks. His teammate Austin Dillon has won at Daytona twice. Kyle Busch is the more sensible pick there. There's a couple of guys. If you look at the odds on FanDuel, the odds on favorite is Ryan Blaney. He's one of my favorite drivers. He's won at Talladega twice. He's won Daytona once at the Firecracker 400, the summer race. He's also finished in the 500 second twice, and he has led over 170 laps in the Daytona 500. For anyone around his age in NASCAR, that is far and beyond anyone else. He just hasn't led that last one. Probably should have won that race last year. He got put in the wall by his teammate coming off of turn 4. Denny Hamlin, another 3-time Daytona 500 winner. Super reliable choice. And then you go down, and we can get into this more, but you've got guys like Brad Keselowski, who is he's at a different team than he has been for a while. He was at his, in his first year at RFK Racing last year. He was right there. He's won Daytona in the summer as well, and he's won Talladega a handful of times. There's a lot of guys out there, and it's one of the races you really can pick from the heart. And we'll talk little value picks in a bit, but this race, if you want to throw some money down on somebody that's plus 10,000, this is the race to do it.
I want to throw a little prop that's been catching some action here. I'll send it to you, Jabron. Then, Jake, I want to get your thoughts on it too, because it brings up a guy that I end up talking about a lot, and that's Joey Logano to finish better than Kyle Larson. It's a minus 114 bet. So, you risk 114 to win $100. Where are you at with that one, LeBron?
Well, obviously, with just all the information that Jake gave me, you have to go with Logano, right?
Yeah. I like it.
The hard part about that is, and especially at a race like Talladega and Daytona, is guys can pass each other. It's just because it's the nature of pack racing. I mean, guys are so tight all the time that it really all it takes is one shove in the middle of the draft to pass somebody. Now, what I then come down to that is, all right, who's less likely at a track like Daytona to get caught up in a wreck? And the past would tell you that that would probably be Joey Logano. Logano's won the race before. Kyle Larson hasn't. Kyle Larson's been caught up in that wreck multiple times. And like I said, he's just not as solid as Joey Logano or a lot of those guys at the plate track. So that to me is what I kind of break it down to when I've got one like that. If the big one happens, who's more likely to figure out how to evade it? And to me, that's Joey Logano.
Heck yeah. I like it. You just convinced me. So Logano on that one, Andy.
Logano on that one. What'd you say those odds were, Andy?
Minus 114.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
That's good. That's
Depending
good.
where you're digging that up. Look, Jabron, do you got any other props that you want to dig into?
Well, I just kind of wanted to see, everybody throws a lot of money on, who's going to overall win the race. You can really find some value on top 10 finishes or top 5 finishes. And most of those are, plus 110 or plus 105, stuff like that. So a guy that I really liked that you touched on a little bit there was Austin Dillon, Jake. And I think he's kind of a, up and comer right now that I think can, he could win this race. I don't think he will, but I think he'll be towards the top of the pack. So I'm looking at Austin Dillon to probably have a top 10 finish here.
Yeah, that would make it 2 in a row for Austin Dillon if he did get a top 10 or win, because he won the race in the summer to punch his ticket to the playoffs next year. What I got to say, though, about Austin Dillon, just in the fact that on FanDuel, and I think if you look around at Barstool and DraftKings, they're all right around here, a little below, a little above, but right at plus 3,000. I mean, for a guy that is driving for a team that has really been dominant at restrictor plate tracks and Richard Childress Racing, a guy who's won the 500 before, knows how to work the draft well, for the most part, stays out of trouble. That's just one where if you want to put $5 down, you might as well, because the return is going to be outstanding.
When you're talking long shots, a name that I saw crop up, and I don't know if you can put any weight into this, Jimmy Johnson, 40-1, and he hasn't even qualified since 2020.
Right. And that's the thing is, well, he stepped away from NASCAR for a while, and, he's now got to qualify, as we're having this conversation, qualifying is going on now, and he could punch his ticket in tonight. He could do it on Thursday at the duels. Jimmy with this, it's a funny situation, because I think if you said that to him, if you told him you were going to bet on him to win the Daytona 500, he would kind of chuckle, because I don't know. I don't necessarily know what Jimmy is there for. I don't know if he's there to win. I don't necessarily know if he's there because he loves racing. I think it's probably a little bit of both, but I guarantee you, if he's coming off turn 4 and Jimmy Johnson is still in this thing and he's in those front 4 or 5 cars, he's going to do everything he can to move somebody out of the way. I mean, that's who Jimmy is.
Yeah. He's always a threat, no doubt. I mean, when he's in the right frame of mind. All right, so we got a couple minutes left here. Jabron, who's your overall favorite then?
Yeah, I mean, I think my overall favorite is Hamlin to win this race, Andy. And then, just like you said, with Blaney and Hamlin going back and forth, those are my top 2 to go into it. And then, it's a long shot, but I like Austin Dillon. So those are my top 3, and those are the ones I'll be throwing money on.
Jake, why don't you give us your top 3 and why?
So my top 3, I'll start kind of from third to first here. My number 3 is Ryan Blaney. It's a little bit of a pick from the heart, because, like I said, he's one of my favorite drivers, but he's been so close and he's so reliable at Daytona that sooner rather than later, he's going to pick one of these races off.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Denny Hamlin. And those are kind of chalk picks, but I sort of feel like this year, with it being the second year in this next gen car for NASCAR, the guys are going to have a better feel of how to work the draft in this car and the aerodynamics. And they're changing up some of the airflow into the cars that I think their guys are getting a little more used to. My pick to win this race, and I want to see how things shape out in the duels on tomorrow, and how practice works and everything, and who works the draft. At plus 3,000, my pick to win this race is Ryan Preece. He stepped away from NASCAR, from the Cup Series full time last season, but he's a great overall race car driver, guys. His first ever Daytona 500, he finished 10th, was incredible at evading wrecks. He's finished top 10 at Talladega. and he's in better equipment. And that's my whole thing is he started out with JTG Doherty Racing. And now he's with Stewart Haas Racing. And that's where Tony Stewart raced. That's where Kurt Busch raced for a long time. That's where Kevin Harvick still races. Those guys know how to build good race cars. And I just sort of think when I'm factoring in all the things I like to think about when it comes to betting for the Daytona 500, value, return, who can actually win this race, Ryan Preece is all of that.
Hey, we talked about Ryan. Yeah, we talked about Ryan a couple weeks ago.
Flash too, so I like Ryan Preece as well. That's a very good pick, Jake.
Yeah, there's some guys also out there that are, plus 10,000. Corey LaJoy is one who, he's found his way to the front at plate tracks, was up there a lot the other last season at Atlanta, which after that repave has become a plate track. Yeah. The other two I'd throw out there would be Bubba Wallace and Harrison Burton.
Yeah, yep. Well, I kind of go the other direction here. I like chalk. At the Clash, I went with Kyle Busch. I really like Kyle Larson, but I don't know. It's just something about Busch. He's due, and it just seems like sooner or later he's going to win one. He always does. So give me the prick once again in Kyle Busch. I think he's going to take it home. Daytona, bright lights. That's his type of race.
All righty.
Yeah. There's a lot of people picking Kyle Busch. I mean, I've talked to a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I know within NASCAR who they think he's the car to beat this weekend.
There you go.
Well, Jake, thank you for joining us on our NASCAR Daytona 500 segment. Gibran, before we let everybody go, let's take a minute to recognize one of our fabulous partners. That is the Nebraska Brewing Company. We've been enjoying the cool beer, the new cream ale. I mean, I know you got a pint over there, don't you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It might overtake Taco Besa as my favorite beer at Nebraska Brewing Company, so I do like that one.
Nebraska Brewing Company, world class in every glass. Don't go anywhere. This is WTL.